feel like I'm in therapy. Okay. Today, I want to talk about Virginia Woolf. If you're an English major, you've probably had to read A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf at least one time. But you may ask, we asked you to speak about women and fiction. What has that got to do with A Room of One's Own? So, in A Room of One's Own, Virginia Woolf details and outlines why women haven't been acknowledged in fiction the same way men, and a lot of it comes down to not having a room of one's own, or the space and time to write. And that's been something I've been thinking about a lot lately. What does it mean to be able to write and to be able to devote resources and time to writing? It is inherently a position of privilege. I've been personally frustrated with the way that we're expected to prioritize time. Writing has always been something I've prioritized in my life. I set aside time for it. I've built my life around it. After college, I tried to avoid getting a desk job in service of my writing. And a lot of the times I approach life in a way that feels like I'm collecting experience to write. And even my writing partner and I have talked about how when some catastrophe strikes our lives, we often think of it as like some kind of consolation, like at least I can write about this now, or I have new material for my writing or new perspective that I can explore in my writing. However, lately I've become very frustrated with this feeling of not having time to devote to my writing. A lot of the times I'm just busy. I'm a busy person. I'm a busy guy. And a lot of that is my own faults. I've moved back to the Chicago area after living in a really small rural town for grad school. And since moving back, I've been seeing my friends. I've been really busy filling my life with joy and social activities and dating my girlfriend. And I have a full-time job in marketing. And on top of that, I also am an adjunct English instructor at the college that I used to attend for graduate school. And on top of that, I sometimes take on freelance side projects. I like to devote my time to painting, to reading, watching TV. I love watching TV, and relaxing, exercising. And within all of that, it's hard to find time for writing. And I always knew this was a danger of diving into the world of full-time work, but insurance is something I need right now. So that's part of that trade-off, right? But as I've been thinking about how can I intentionally devote more time to writing, I've become more and more frustrated by the fact that a lot of this is outside of my control. I did cut back on my social life, but then I was not as happy and therefore wasn't as inspired to write. And a lot of what was pulling my time and my mind was my job, with which I have to be sitting at a desk for 8.5 to 9 hours a day. I'm not allowed to work on other things, obviously, because I'm being paid to work on the things I work for work. And then also teaching. Teaching is also in the back of my mind. Like, do my students have a deadline coming up? Is there anything I need to remind them about? What grading do I have to do? And even when I'm not actively teaching, it's always something that takes up my mental time. And when I'm not focusing on that, I'm also thinking, how can I strategically move my life back to a point where I get to prioritize and centralize writing? And that often looks like me drafting plans to get back into active freelance work, and instead of teaching, going back to freelancing, doing free writing assignments to build my portfolio. So basically, all of this time is spent thinking about money. All it boils down to at the end is money. And I think that's really important to remember when we talk about the ideas Virginia Woolf shares in A Room of One's Own. Because when we're all being exploited by this system, we don't get the freedom and liberty to create art in a way that is enjoyable, in a way that serves our craft, in a way that helps build our writing careers or our art careers, because it's just not seen as worthy. You should always be working on your backup plan, etc., right? So as I have continued, or I guess tried to prioritize writing in my life, I constantly find myself hitting these roadblocks the older I get. I'm in my late 20s now, so it's also shifted my perspective a little bit. Ever since I turned 26, I don't have the freedom of just being able to quit my job whenever I want because I'm no longer eligible to be on my mom's insurance. So that means I have to have some kind of more stable flow. So if I'm like, hey, like I've saved up enough money that I can like skate by and do some writing and focus on my writing, now I run into this conflict where I'm like, well, I'd really like to take time off to write. I'd like to go take even like a week off, retreat somewhere, just like go camping and write. I do not have the means to do so. And I think what's especially frustrating is that this is so beyond our control, because our system of capitalism it's changed our relationship to our time. We no longer really have ownership of our time. All of our time has to be in service of production and in service of making money, or having that hang over you while you're trying to actively be an artist and do something that you not only love, but especially if you want to build a career in writing or art, then it's especially frustrating because you're just trying to survive, and all of your survival energy is going towards your jobs, your multiple jobs, and that means you can no longer focus the attention and energy you want to focus on your craft. It's enormously frustrating. I find myself constantly frustrated by the fact that I don't control my time. All of my time is spent focusing on money, and it seems like everybody but me owns my time. My students own my time, the people I work for own my time, and most of all, just money owns my time. And that means that I don't get to spend the time that I would like to on writing. And it's something I'm just working through, and that's why I want to make this video, just so I can vent a little bit, but also maybe come up with some strategies for reclaiming my time in service of writing. And I think right now, what that looks like for me is maybe stepping back a little bit, stepping back from a few things. So maybe that looks like stepping back from teaching for a while, even though it means I won't be getting a little bit of supplemental income that I really do rely on. It might look like stepping away from writing for a little bit, because I've gotten so wrapped up in this idea that, oh my gosh, I'm not creating, I don't have time. Every time I sit down at my computer, my eyes are very fatigued from staring at a screen for 9 hours a day, that I'm like, the last thing I want to do is sit here at my computer, so I'm going to go for a walk, and then I'm tired. And these all sound like really pathetic excuses, and I'm done beating myself up for that. I just want to find a way to intentionally reconnect with my writing in a way that feels restful and slow. I recently read an article called A Revolution in Creativity on Slow Writing by Melissa Matthewson. And she talks about snails and lichens, which I'm all about that. Basically, draws attention to the fact that we do get trapped in this idea of being ultra productive and creating work and having this output, and then that our craft tends to get wrapped up in that very same cycle that has trapped me in this situation in the first place. Matthewson writes, "We should lichenize our writing, and in this I mean challenge all the ways we are influenced to rush our composition, to push against capitalism's engine insisting a kind of efficient production of creative works. Instead, how can we, as writers, contest the urge to produce at real or imagined external timelines?" I think is something I want to start aspiring to. Matthewson also points out that slow means listening, and I think one of the biggest parts of writing is not actually writing. It's about collecting and archiving memory and thought and focusing and being intentional and present about noticing the world around you. I had a creative writing professor who used to say that writers are really good noticers. Like, your job as a writer is to observe the world around you and to remember it and to capture that and share it with others. And I think that's something a lot of us strive to do. I think for me, I could find a better paying job to help fight against these problems that I'm encountering, but that also takes a lot of time and energy. I could try to reclaim my time by doing freelance writing, but again, that just can also end up being stressful. All right, I have a meeting with a student now. Speak of not having time for anything. So I'm gonna end this video. I don't know. I don't think it even made sense. I don't know.